Go, 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 go!
Good?
Yeah, all right. Just a scratch.
Hello and welcome to a new Ukraine war update. To save time, I'll keep this intro short and just cover the essentials. We have a bunch of interesting videos and events to discuss today, and as always, if you appreciate the effort I put into this video, please show your support with a like and a comment. The full version is available on Telegram. Thank you. This Ukrainian soldier probably had the luckiest day of his life when a Russian FPV drone hit him in the back of the head and knocked him to the ground, but didn't explode, allowing him to quickly get away. Unlike many others, he didn't make the mistake of trying to pick up the drone after it failed and chose to walk away instead. This Russian soldier wasn't as lucky. He tried to dive over a fence to escape a Ukrainian FPV drone, but it quite literally stayed on his heels and hit him. If you thought the video showing Ukrainian FPV drones hitting what looks like a bright yellow Russian school bus was crazy, then just wait, because here, Ukrainian FPV drones are targeting a Russian assault tractor. Yep, you're seeing that right, a damn armored tractor. What's even crazier is that it seems it took 3 FPV drones to disable it. So far, we've seen plenty of footage showing incoming FPV drones being intercepted with shotguns, but I don't think any video has ever captured what soldiers in the field truly think about enemy FPV drones as well as this one does. I think anyone in the field will agree after seeing this. Have you ever wondered what would happen if a battle-hardened Ukrainian Special Forces squad equipped with thermal scopes went up against a platoon of North Korean soldiers in the woods of Kursk? Well, that's exactly what happened here, so stay tuned. But before we continue with the video, a quick word from today's sponsor, MyHeritage. When I signed up on the site, I didn't know what to expect at first, but I wasn't disappointed. In fact, what I found really surprised me and, to be honest, fits really well with my channel. After I created a rather modest family tree that only included my immediate family, I was skeptical whether anything would show up at all. But after just one click using MyHeritage Instant Discoveries feature, I was genuinely amazed by what I saw. What I was shown was an old newspaper article from an Austrian newspaper from 1915. The article was about honoring Austro-Hungarian soldiers during World War I, and one of the soldiers who received the silver medal for bravery second class had the exact same first and last name as my father. Of course, my father didn't fight in World War I, so I looked into it further. And what really blew my mind was the fact that this man had to be related to my father because he came from the exact same small village. It was just too precise to be a coincidence. But that wasn't all. I dug a little deeper toward my heritage and found out that at least 3 of my ancestors who were born in the same small village like my father fought in the First World War on the side of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, and all 3 were wounded. All of them served in the same regiment, the Bosnian-Herzegovinian Infantry Regiment No. 2. What was special about this regiment was that no other Austro-Hungarian regiment was more highly decorated during World War I, and my ancestors did their part in that. I never would have thought that my genuine interest in wars and the military was simply in my DNA. In total, at least 5 of my ancestors fought in that regiment, and all of them survived, even though 4 were wounded. I'd say that's a pretty high survival rate for the Great War. As you can see, thanks to my heritage, I've discovered so much about my family, and I've even created the perfect foundation for further research. And with my heritage, you can do even more than what I just showed you. You can upload old photos of your family members, and my heritage can restore, colorize, and even animate them, along with many other amazing features. Try it out for yourself with a free 14-day trial of the complete My Heritage plan. Just follow the link in the description. What you see here is helmet cam footage from Ukrainian Special Forces who are using thermal scopes to hunt North Korean soldiers. The footage was recorded during combat in the Kursk region, in which the Ukrainian Special Forces operators reportedly took out an entire platoon of regular North Korean troops. It should be noted, however, that this information was released by the Ukrainian military itself and cannot be independently verified based on the available video footage. Nevertheless, there were definitely casualties on the North Korean side, as can be seen in the thermal imaging. I hope you understand that I had to blur these parts for YouTube and can only show them unedited on Telegram. While the Ukrainian Special Forces operators had a significant advantage over the North Koreans thanks to their thermal imaging capabilities, they still came under return fire. In response, the Ukrainian operators continued to engage the North Koreans and began using a handheld grenade launcher to target the North Koreans hiding from their thermal scopes in the woods. Despite the minor disruption caused by the return fire, the Ukrainians maintained the initiative and continued to dictate the pace of the battle, consistently putting the North Koreans under fire. Still, there was a brief pause for this operator to catch his breath and drink some water before returning to the fight. The men seen here were part of the Ukrainian 6th Special Operations Forces Ranger Regiment and were reportedly operating behind enemy lines when this video was filmed. It seems the North Koreans were provided with Russian documents but also carried handwritten North Korean notes with them. This was not the only time members of the 6th Ranger Regiment used thermal imaging to hunt for enemy forces in the Kursk region, as you'll soon witness, in even higher video quality. For some reason, however, parts of the video were filmed in black and white. In this firefight, the men launched an assault against Russian soldiers in the woods, who stood no chance against the better equipped Ukrainian special operators. What is partially demonstrated quite well here is the use of the so-called 4Fs by the Ukrainian Special Forces. This is essentially a standard operating procedure for winning firefights. The 4Fs stand for find, fix, flank and finish. First, the enemy has to be found. Then he can be fixed by pinning him down. This can be done through suppressive fire or, in modern scenarios, with the help of drones but also any other asset suitable for this task. This then forces the enemy into a passive position, allowing friendly forces to flank the fixed elements, with the goal of bringing them into a field of fire where they can be finished off. While the 4Fs are often seen as the ultimate textbook example of how to approach a firefight, smoothly executing them in actual combat is often challenging. However, this does not mean the concept doesn't work or that it shouldn't be used as a guideline. That is definitely not the case. After taking out the Russians, the Ukrainians searched their hideout and collected trophies. In this short clip, 2 Ukrainian soldiers demonstrate their trust in the reliability of a German-made Leopard tank, which in turn showcases the power of its brakes. But better watch for yourself. This pair of English-speaking international fighters tried to shoot down a Russian drone that was in the process of crashing into them. Their attempts failed, but fortunately, the drone detonated away from them without causing any harm. Here we have a pretty interesting clip, as it shows a squad of Russians jumping out of a Ukrainian-owned M113 to storm a Russian fighting position in a tree line near Kupiansk. This may sound a bit confusing, but the men are part of the Russian Volunteer Corps, a group of Russians fighting within the ranks of the Ukrainian forces. During the fighting, they drew 2 Russians out of their fighting position, who then surrendered. To be honest, the video is quite short and appears to be just a trailer, so perhaps we'll get to see the full footage of this operation soon. This video, filmed by a Ukrainian drone, shows a team of Ukrainian soldiers conducting urban clearing operations in one of the many devastated urban areas along the front line. After carefully moving into the area, they began clearing the destroyed buildings, most of which consisted of nothing but rubble, using grenades and small arms fire. The use of grenades is mostly precautionary, meaning the soldiers don't know exactly if or where Russian soldiers might be hiding among the rubble or in the basement areas. Shortly after, the drone spotted 2 Russian soldiers who were about to hide in a more intact house. After a third and then even a 4th Russian soldier was spotted entering the building, a Ukrainian drone struck the entrance. After a second strike hit the other side of the building, a heavy Ukrainian quadcopter drone dropped its ordnance directly on top, causing a massive explosion. What such an operation looks like amid all the destroyed rubble is shown here clearly from the perspective of a Ukrainian soldier through his helmet camera. Grenades are not only thrown through doorways, or what's left of them, but also into ventilation shafts, as was just seen here shortly before. I think these scenes give a good impression of why soldiers prefer to blast their way through with grenades before even considering entering buildings or basements. The nature of the terrain, with all the debris on the ground and its often confined spaces, also shows how difficult it is to evade grenades or drone-dropped explosives. There are often simply no options for escape, and even when there are, the risk of injury remains high. Ukraine also released drone footage showing the destruction of what appears to be a North Korean M1978 Coxswain heavy artillery piece in the Kursk region. It is not entirely clear whether these North Korean artillery systems are used exclusively by North Korean troops in Kursk, or if they were merely supplied to Russia for use by Russian forces. However, it would make sense for these systems to be operated by North Korean soldiers as well, since they have already been fully trained on them and other related systems. In addition, Ukrainian forces released footage of what was most likely a HIMARS strike on an alleged North Korean MLRS system, but the video quality is too poor to say for certain. Along with the strike, this photo was shared. However, as mentioned, it cannot be confirmed, even if it is not entirely unlikely. I know some people still question the participation of North Korean troops in the Ukraine war, even with tons of evidence being slapped right into their face, but I'll talk more about that later in the video. We also have to talk about Russian successes, not because I gave into complaints about one-sided reporting, but because it would be naive to ignore them. Next to the fact that Russian forces continue to gain ground slowly, but steadily across the front, they also managed to foil the new Ukrainian attempt to launch a significant armored offensive into the depths of Russia's first region. Over the course of this recent renewed Ukrainian operation, Russia released a substantial amount of drone footage showing fractional Ukrainian military base, most of which consisted of heavy engineering equipment used for breaching defensive positions or conducting demining operations. It looks like Ukraine tried to at least partially replicate its previous success in Kursk, but was unable to gain any significant foothold on Russian territory this time. This assessment is based on the outcomes shown in these videos and the lack of confirmed territorial control and geolocated footage and maps. Several key factors could explain why Ukraine's April, May 2025 attempt to re-establish a foothold in Kursk failed, in contrast to their initially successful August 2024 offensive. The first factor would be the loss of surprise. The August 2024 offensive succeeded largely due to the element of surprise. By contrast, Russia was fully alert to the possibility of renewed Ukrainian operations in the area this time. Additionally, Russia's force concentration in the region is now significantly higher, with more skilled units and numerous FPV drone operators on standby. These drone forces were notably absent during the early days of the 2024 offensive. Despite how it may appear on camera, Ukraine's May 2025 operation seems to have been limited tactical actions rather than part of a coordinated strategic initiative. The need to defend against the increasingly successful Russian offensives in Donetsk Oblast likely prevented Ukraine from concentrating sufficient forces for another major cross-border operation. Russia's complete control of Kursk, along with Ukraine's recent failed offensive attempts in Kursk and Belgorod, has created conditions for Russia to expand offensive operations into Ukraine's Sami Oblast, where they have also recently managed to capture ground. Ukraine, on the other hand, had hoped to use control of Russian territory as leverage in potential peace negotiations. The complete loss of the Kursk foothold eliminates this bargaining chip at a critical time when peace negotiations are actively being pursued, at least officially. Ukraine committed some of its best units to both the original Kursk operation and subsequent attempts to maintain or regain positions. However, Russia has now established layered defenses along the border, including anti-tank obstacles, minefields, three-sided artillery positions, in addition to the previously mentioned FPV drone units. These units deploy fiber-optic FPV drones that are immune to electronic warfare countermeasures. Russia also concentrates a disproportionately high share of its guided flight bombs in the Kursk region. According to a spokesperson for Ukrainian border guard detachment, as of April 26, Russian forces are conducting 50 to 100 guided flight bomb strikes per day against positions in Sami Oblast. Now, back to the North Korean soldiers. I know I might be a bit late with this for some, but the Russian Ministry of Defense itself has recently confirmed that North Korean soldiers are fighting on Russian side against Ukraine. Several related videos have also been released showing North Korean soldiers in the field wearing Russian military uniforms. In addition, videos have surfaced showing North Korean troops training in Russia, where they are learning how to assault nuclear trenches, as well as how to fight against drones. To sum it up one more time, since late 2024, North Korea has deployed over 11,000 troops to Russia to support its war against Ukraine, with an additional 3,000 reinforcements sent in early 2025. These troops have been engaged in combat operations in the Kursk Oblast, particularly in areas like the Kovo and Malaya Bloc. Their deployment comes alongside extensive weapons transfers from North Korea to Russia, including artillery shells, ballistic missiles, and military vehicles. The military cooperation between the two nations was formalized through the North Korean-Russian Treaty on Comprehensive Strategic Partnership signed in June 2024, which includes a mutual defense clause. Article 4 of the treaty states that should neither nation put in a state of war by an armed invasion, the other will provide military and other assistance with all means in its possession without delay in accordance with Article 2 of the UN Charter, with the laws of the PTRK and the Russian Federation. This clause was later cited by North Korea as justification for its troop deployment to Russia. So far, NATO and its partners have strongly condemned this cooperation as a threat to both Euro-Atlantic and Indo-Pacific security, and stated both countries' actions represent clear violations of multiple UN Security Council resolutions. For example, this footage alone showing Russia's training of North Korean soldiers involving arms, or related material violates UN Security Council Resolution 1718 from 2006, 1874 from 2009, and 2270 from 2016, which collectively prohibits providing or receiving military training or assistance from the DPRK. What's your take on this? Should the rule of law be upheld? And if so, how in this particular case? Or is this maybe being taken too seriously? Let me know in the comments. I, for my part, believe that Europe and its allies should come up with a swift response the moment it is definitively confirmed that North Koreans are not only fighting in Russia, but also participating in offensive operations on Ukrainian territory. This Ukrainian drone video clearly illustrates the numerous, omnipresent dangers soldiers constantly face on the front lines. In this example, a Russian motorcycle first triggered a mine. However, this did not stop the vehicle and the soldiers continued their mission. Shortly afterward, it drove directly into Ukrainian barbed wire, where it became stuck. The soldiers dismounted, and at that very moment, a Ukrainian FPV drone narrowly missed both them and their vehicle. The soldiers continued their advance on foot, fully aware that they were under constant surveillance by Ukrainian drones, just waiting for the right moment to strike. And so it happened again. It appears that Russian soldiers were trained to drive their motorcycles directly into Ukrainian barbed wire defenses, as demonstrated in this training video. The lead motorcycle is used to create a breach in the wire, allowing the following motorcycles to use the one stuck in the wire as a bridge to drive over or even jump across the obstacle. This leads me to believe that the Russian soldiers previously shown under combat conditions were using this tactic intentionally. I know what most of you are probably thinking right now, something like Leroy Jenkins or along those lines. Currently, barbed wire plays a major role in Ukraine's defense strategy, and it's even being deployed with the help of unmanned ground vehicles, as seen here. The reason for this focus is that Russia relies heavily on infantry in its recent assaults, especially in the first echelons. While the use of motorcycles for direct assault operations is often mocked and attributed to a lack of armored vehicles, especially by those in the pro-Ukrainian camp, their use can actually make sense. For example, in situations where speed is more important than armor. The Ukrainian armed forces have recognized this as well and are now experimenting with the concept themselves, albeit on a limited scale so far. Here you see members of the 425th Special Forces Regiment Scala, which recently established the first motorcycle assault company in the armed forces of Ukraine. And as you can see in these images, the company has already deployed this approach in combat. If you've watched this far, I just want to say thank you. If you appreciate my work and efforts, please show your support with a like and a comment. You have no idea how much that helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Also, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell, and enable all notifications if you haven't already. Thanks again. Here, a group of Russian soldiers took cover behind an MTLB wreck after spotting a Ukrainian FPV drone that was about to target them. The soldier wearing the camera tried to shoot it down with his rifle, but missed. This led to a brief game of cat and mouse around the MTLB, before a lucky shot finally caused the drone to detonate prematurely in mid-air, just short of reaching the soldiers. Apparently unharmed, the soldiers continued on their way after a brief pause to catch their breath. This Russian armored vehicle drove straight into a Ukrainian mine and exploded in a massive fireball, all of which was captured by a Ukrainian drone. But the following Russians were even more unfortunate, as two more vehicles almost simultaneously drove into mines in an open field, with multiple drones capturing their fate. Here, both vehicles also went up in massive explosions, as is clearly visible. A few weeks ago, Ukraine released remarkable footage showing the downing of a Russian fighter jet using an unmanned surface vessel armed with surface-to-air missiles. This incident marked the first known instance of crewed combat aircraft being destroyed by naval drones. It was reported that the Ukrainians employed a Magura V-7 unmanned surface vessel equipped with US-supplied AIM-9 Sidewinder infrared-guided missiles, which had been repurposed for surface-to-air engagements. The Russian jet shot down was a Russian Su-30 that was operating over the Black Sea. Both pilots reportedly ejected safely. Another incident, in which a second jet was reportedly shot down, has been reported, but video footage of it is still missing. After what I'm about to tell you, you'll never look at drone footage from Ukraine the same way again. Here's the thing, Ukraine has introduced a new approach to motivate its military forces in the ongoing conflict with Russia, a gamified reward system that turns battlefield successes into tangible benefits. This system, reminiscent of video game mechanics, awards points to soldiers who document successful strikes against enemy targets. These points can then be exchanged for new equipment through an online marketplace. Yes, you heard that right, Ukraine has effectively introduced in-game purchases to the war. In April 2025, Ukraine launched an online platform called Brave One Market. Described by Ukraine's digital transformation minister Mikhailo Fedorov as an Amazon for the military, where the platform aims to revolutionize military procurement. Unlike traditional procurement processes, it directly connects frontline units with technology suppliers, offering over 1,000 different military products. Some of the core features of the Brave One market include centralized access to over 1,000 military products across 7 categories and a direct connection between manufacturers and military units. The platform offers both codified and non-codified products, with a verified review system for military personnel expected to launch soon. It also features a personal cabinet system for both soldiers and manufacturers, and is integrated with the Combat Points program, allowing soldiers to exchange points earned on the battlefield for new equipment. According to project manager Yulia Mena, the marketplace evolved naturally from Brave One's initial focus on supporting Ukrainian defense manufacturers. In the first year, Brave One focused on building a base of Ukrainian producers. In the second year, we actively helped them meet qualification requirements and provided support through demo days for product testing, Mena explained during the Defense Tech Era conference. The platform addresses a critical challenge in Ukraine's defense ecosystem. Despite the proliferation of innovative military technologies, many units remain unaware of available solutions. Brave One Market bridges this information gap by creating a centralized hub where military personnel can easily discover, evaluate, and acquire the tools they need. The core of Ukraine's gamification approach is the Army of Drones bonus system, which rewards military units with digital points when they provide verified evidence of successful strikes against Russian targets. These points can then be exchanged for new equipment through the Brave One market. The process begins when military units record drone footage of successful strikes against Russian targets. This footage is then uploaded to Ukraine's Delta communication system. From there, specialists review and verify the footage, assessing the type of target and the level of destruction. Once the strike is confirmed, points are awarded based on the strategic value and damage caused. These points can then be used by the units on the Brave One market to acquire new equipment directly suited to their operational needs. 6 points are awarded for taking out a Russian soldier, 20 points for damaging a tank, and 40 points for destroying one. Taking out an MLRS system can earn soldiers up to 50 points, depending on the caliber. The system has been continuously refined to maximize its effectiveness. For example, the points awarded for eliminating enemy infantry were increased from 2 to 6, resulting in a doubling of confirmed enemy casualties in just 1 month. And here we already see one of the aspects I personally find concerning. This system links a basic need of soldiers, access to sufficient and advanced equipment, to the accumulation of points for eliminating enemies. This could potentially lead soldiers to commit war crimes or to target living individuals who might otherwise be spared due to their low tactical value. For me, it's also obvious that the system serves the purpose of collecting massive data to train artificial intelligence models for lethal military use. And while I'm fully aware of their necessity, especially since everyone is currently pursuing them, I'm still not a big fan of such systems. Kostiantin Korsun, a cybersecurity specialist and former deputy head of the SBU's cybercrime department, has also been a vocal critic of the system. Korsun raises significant concerns about the Ministry of Digital Transformation's access to sensitive military data. He stated, "It turns out that the completely civilian Ministry of Digital Transformation has full access to the supposedly closed military system of Delta. Otherwise, how will they count the E-points if they do not see the video confirmation and verify them?" Other military analysts have also raised ethical concerns about incentivizing kills through a points-based reward system, suggesting that it could potentially dehumanize combat operations and encourage risk-taking behavior solely to accumulate points. However, proponents argue that the system merely rewards effective operations that are already military priorities. Even though I'm not a supporter of the system, there's no denying that several Ukrainian units have demonstrated remarkable success within the points program, highlighting both its effectiveness and its potential to enhance military operations. One of the most successful units is Magyar's Birds, an elite drone team that has accumulated over 16,298 points through consistent and highly effective operations. According to Digital Transformation Minister Mikhailo Fedorov, this point total is enough to purchase 1,000 first-person view drones, 100 vampire drones also known as Baba Yaga, and 40 reconnaissance drones. Despite all the criticism, the system directs resources to the most effective units and bypasses traditional bureaucratic procurement processes. However, it also adds unnecessary bureaucracy for frontline troops and risks turning war into a game where scorekeeping may be prioritized over strategic objectives. Ukrainian special forces have released footage showing the destruction of several Russian anti-air defense systems using US-supplied Switchblade kamikaze drones. While we've seen these systems in action before, it's still interesting to see them being used, especially given ongoing claims from the Ukrainian side that they're not as effective as initially thought, particularly when weighed against their cost. This is why some say we only see them used on rare occasions. Still, it seems they can be deployed effectively when the conditions are right. One of the main problems with the Switchblade drones is their limited payload, which makes them less effective against heavily armored targets. They're also vulnerable to electronic warfare and require good intelligence and coordination to be used effectively. Thanks again to MyHeritage, not only for sponsoring this video, but for helping me learn more about myself and my family's history. Try out MyHeritage for yourself and begin your journey into the past today. Link is in the description.